All right. Hello, Jonathan. How are you doing?
I'm good, Laurencio. How are you?
I'm all right.
Hi, Oscar. How you doing?
Great, fine, and you?
I'm doing all right. I'm okay. Hola, Manuela. Okay, I'm gonna ask you the first question. How many times have you traveled internationally in your life?
Just the one time.
Just the one time from Panama back to United States, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Over 10 times.
Over 10 times. So you're pretty well traveled.
Yes.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, my last trip was Buenos Aires
Okay.
in December.
And in December. Oh, okay. So, and the trip you most recently took was in August, also from
Yes.
Buenos Aires from Panama. Okay.
Yes.
During the pandemic, I traveled only once, coming from France to Panama. And before that, I usually used to stay in my lift in France, and sometimes used to go to see my parents on vacation, but only around France. And the first time I really traveled from continent to continent was in June when I came back to Panama, which was during the pandemic.
So your trip you took during the pandemic, and then the one or the ones you took before the pandemic, like, are there any similarities? Were there drastic differences?
So what? When I flew back home for when I flew back home for Christmas, I I was chilling, but there wasn't too many people. The airport wasn't, the airport is always stocked up. I mean,
Hmm.
you gotta wait in line to go through customs checking and all this other stuff just to get to the gates, right? So it was pretty average for what it was. I just had to wait. Um, when I came when I went from Miami to Panama, which was probably like 3 or 4 hours, um, the flight was okay. I had to wait in a long line. I mean, they were running like a usual airport would, just you just gotta wait. But they were quick, with the checking in and here's your airplane ticket, your passport back, here's your bags going on the undercarriage. What flying back home from Panama, flying back home from Panama in the airport, I had to Panama was still in lockdown. It was pretty fresh.
Hmm.
So they were just starting. The curfew was like 9:30 or 10
Uh-huh.
o'clock. So I had to go from Clayton to
Mhm. Right.
Tucumán. Yeah. So I went from, mi tía casa in
Uh-huh.
Tucumán. And then I had to stay in there because you can't leave or go past the airport. You can't be out after 9:30. So my aunt left, and then I was just waiting in the airport for 6 hours.
And do
9:30, 9:30 to basically like 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay. And but what was the airline that you used, if you remember?
Uh, Spirit,
Spirit.
Spirit Airlines.
Okay. And how did Spirit treat you on your trip, like going to the United States?
Oh no, it was good because I used Spirit going back home for the holidays and Spirit coming back before the semester started.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, no, Spirit is Spirit. I mean, they were cool. It wasn't hassle. There wasn't no hassle or anything. So
All right. And did they have more like security measures, and were they more strict because of the pandemic, or was it just the same as when before the pandemic?
same as.
Same as. Okay.
What do you remember like the airline that you used?
Yeah, Copa.
You used Copa, and how was like your general experience? Like, in was it any different from before the pandemic, or was it just the same?
It was very different. And this is why. Number one, obviously there's a pandemic. So obviously traveling, there was like some security methods that were extra, such as taking my temperature a bunch of times. Also, my mask had to be on the whole flight. I couldn't even take it off when I went to the bathroom, like nothing. But I feel like the service in general was very different because when I traveled in December, like they would serve me food, they would give me water, they give me drinks, like, and they were very they were very attentive as to like that everyone had what they needed and for everyone to be comfortable. And instead, this time around, they couldn't even give us water. No one was checking on like whether people were doing good or not. And the fact that, I know it's for security, but the fact that the flight attendants were all in hazmat suits, it was very dehumanizing for them. I did feel like they were more machines rather than people, and it didn't feel like more like a service flight, and the service was not the same.
Okay, so you would say, like, given the pandemic, the type of service and the way like traveling international now is a bit not worse, but it's like more strict because there's a lot more like security.
Yes, I would say it's more strict in terms of who goes on the flight, but it's just less of an experience. It's just a thing that you're doing.
Oh, okay, so it's safe to say that you have a little bit of experience when it comes to international travel.
Well, meaning travel before, like all the travels I've done before. Yeah, I've traveled a lot with my family for vacations or just to move from different countries. That's Panama is my third country or fourth. I don't know.
Okay, okay. So you definitely know what you're talking about and what you've seen. So that actually leads to my next question, which is, um, were there any differences between the last time you traveled before the pandemic in comparison to the time that you traveled during the pandemic? Were there any differences? Were there any rule changes? How was your experience with that?
I would say the service. Obviously, they couldn't serve us like the normal food, all the things that need to be heat up. They couldn't serve that, so the food was really bad, even worse
Mhm.
than the normal in plate. And so that was the major change, I would say, for a flight of 11, 12 hours. The food is a bit important, so yeah, it was noticed. And the space between passenger, they made us wait a lot, doing social distancing in the airport. But when we got into the plane, everyone was seated next to everyone, so that was a bit stupid, knowing that the virus could transmit from one to another even if we have masks. But like the security is good at the airport, but not into the plane. But I get it because it wouldn't be affordable for the company to not fulfill the plane.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. But do you feel that the airline that you chose to come to Panama during the pandemic, did that airline, what was the name of it, and did it treat you well?
It was KLM,
Okay.
and I don't usually take KLM, but it was one of the last flight disponible to come in Panama. Actually, it was the first flight coming to Panama after the pandemic. Well, was still the pandemic, but after the major crisis, and the service was a bit bad, like I said, but it's time of pandemic, so what can we
Gotcha.
expect?